You got to be driven by purpose. Here's what purpose does. Purpose says your success has little to do with how you feel. I used to tell Walt that all the time. Well, I don't care how you feel. Well, I don't care if you want to go. If you were controlled by your feelings, I wouldn't be here today. If you were controlled by your feelings, your dad wouldn't go to work. If you're controlled by your feelings, you wouldn't go to practice and grind and run the suicides. If you were controlled by your feelings, you could never succeed. Because your feelings are the things that prevent you from doing the absolute grind that's absolutely necessary. Write this down. First of all, y'all got that point, right?
Yes, sir.
Successful people do the things that what? Because they're driven by what?
Purpose.
And unsuccessful people are driven by what?
Method.
Okay, let me give a real world example of this, and then we'll move on to my next point. Here's a real example. Let's say, what's your name?
Will.
Will. Let's say you're in college. You're a big-time basketball player, right? All the girls are after you, right? He's smiling, right? You know that. Yeah, we'll keep talking. Right? So watch what happened, right? And all of a sudden, you got a game early in the morning. The coach gives you curfew. So the girl calls you. So can't you sneak out tonight? Watch this now. You'll say, no, I can't. Because you're driven by purpose, not by method. The alarm goes off at the unsuccessful person's house. And he wakes up, and he's warm in his bed. And he says, I'm not going out. I'm going to pick up the phone, and he calls in sick. The alarm goes out in Mr. Successful's house. He too is warm in his bed. He too don't want to go out. He too has a thought that I'm going to call in sick. He picks up the phone, but then he has a second thought. He says, no, my rent is due next week. He says, no, I got a kid I'm trying to put through college. He says, no, I must go, because I'm not controlled by my feelings. I'm controlled by my purpose. Gentlemen, if you don't have a purpose, if you're not purposeful in what you do, you can't succeed. You know why? Because you're going to be controlled by your feelings. Y'all got that? Next point. Don't confuse activity with effectiveness. Do not confuse activity with effectiveness. How many of y'all know what I mean by that? Talk to me.
Because activity, just because you are doing something doesn't mean it's effective.
That's exactly right. Just because you're doing it, how many of y'all have, me and Walt talk about this a lot, and we talk about there are a lot of people who fake hustle. Y'all know what fake hustle is? I saw this guy one time, y'all should have seen him. He was running hard to get to first base after he got thrown out. I said, you put on the blazers after you were thrown out. Have y'all seen guys who died for the ball and it was way too late? And they get up like, well, and Walter turned and walked away from it. I seen him do that to kids. Kid died for the ball and bruised himself all on the bleachers, walk away from it. I said, we call that fake hustle. Don't confuse activity with effectiveness. Make sure that what you're doing, you follow me? Make sure that what you're doing has thing. Everybody here is a genius, and you're born a genius. Can I prove it to you? I'm gonna prove it to you right here. Well, how much time I got, man? Because y'all be putting me in cubby holes, man.
17 minutes, you good?
Okay. Let me be clear. So here's the thing. You're a genius. Did you know that?
I did.
You know that? That's good. You're a genius. Nobody ever told you that, but you are. I was speaking at a Jack and Jill event years ago, and they had 941 kids there. And so one of the guys stood up and said, well, what do you mean I'm a genius? I said, you're a genius. He said, well, prove it then. I said, I prove it. So here's what I told him. I said, any expert would tell you that one of the most difficult things in the world to do is to learn a foreign language. Almost any child in the world can learn any language in 2 years without any learning instructions. That's pretty close to genius to me. I couldn't do that today if you asked me to go to China. The problem is, when we grow up, we accept other people's limitations. Here's what happens. When you accept other people's limitations, it lowers your level of self-concept. And this is exactly what happens. I'm telling you what I know. You can never rise above your level of self-concept. I don't care what you do. I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how many languages you speak. You understand? I don't care what your IQ is. I don't care how fast you can read. You can never rise above your level of self-concept. Watch this. If your self-concept is here, you can't rise above it. If we accept other people's limitations of ourselves, we can never rise above it. It's absolutely true. And there's the power of expectation. Now, the other point I want to make is the reason you are a genius is because of what's in you. Therefore, you are supposed to be performing at the genius level. Let me say that. In fact, if you're not performing at the genius level, then you're operating in an unnatural state. Let me be clear about it. You're supposed to be performing. Most of y'all are from good parents. I heard all of your stories. You got people in your family that loves you. The sky is the limit. But the reason we're not performing at the genius level is because we're operating under a lower self-concept. Because we've allowed other people to redefine us. Y'all hear what I'm saying? You can't do it. You hear me? I tell Walt all the time. I said, we were talking about the NBA. I said, well, I'm not worried about the Spurs. He said, y'all are worried about them this year. I said, because the Spurs know who they are. Y'all feel what I'm saying?
Sir.
If you know who you are, you can go through the rough patches and you can rise above it. If you know who you are, you can't listen to negative stuff. I'm gonna show y'all a picture. I want y'all to tell me what y'all think. What's that? I want y'all to get this in your mind. My favorite insect, bumblebee. I even got stung by it. Shut up, man. Let me tell you why he's my favorite. Do you know that there were report done by an engineering study group out of Stanford University? The report was 62 pages long. And the engineers and the aerodynamicists proved that the bumblebee can't fly. They said the bumblebee can't fly because his wings are too thin. His head is too big. The body's too imbalanced. They said aerodynamically, it's impossible for the bumblebee to fly. But you know what I love about the bumblebee? They didn't read the report. If you read the report, you're not going to succeed. Y'all got to hear what I'm trying to tell you. What does this mean? Hustle. Y'all see this? This is, can y'all see that back there?
Yeah.
Who is this? Dennis Rodman wasn't particularly cute. Right? Wasn't particularly articulate. You feel me? Probably misspelled every word. Can we be clear about it? But what he did was he laid out. Y'all hear me? He was committed. He was committed. Walt told me when I was in college, he says, we're gonna win the state championship. I said, we who? He said, we're gonna win the state championship. I said, man, y'all ain't winning no state championship. Y'all ain't got nobody but you and Muff. Walt says, we're gonna win the state championship and I'm gonna be there. So the state championship was actually played on the campus where I was. And true enough, he won the state championship. And let me tell you something, it was the most amazing tour that I'd ever seen. Let me give you this real quick. It was in the sectionals and they were about to get beat because the big fella had fouled out and we were behind. Walt didn't play guard, but he went to get the ball. Let me tell y'all something. I said, you ain't no guard. He went to get the ball. Brought it up the court. Didn't look to pass. He just knew he had to score. I don't know how many points he scored, Joe, in a row, but it was incredible. Went outside of the plan in order to make it happen. Here's what happened. If you're a basketball player, you gotta have courage. In life, you gotta have courage. You know what that means? That means taking some risks. Now, we know Walt's a strict coach, right? But here's what. Walt don't want a player that ain't gonna take no risks. Let me say it again. He don't want a player that's not gonna take no risks. When my brother, older brother Willie, and I were in high school, he had, y'all listen to this now, write this on your paper. I'm a classic. I'm a classic. We had an old, I was a junior, he was a senior. We had an old 59 Ford that we drove around, and it didn't have no reverse in it. So we had to park on the alleyway and on the corner so we can pull out. You know? I was prayed that the cop never stopped me and asked me to back up. So one day my Uncle Billy came to visit from Cleveland. And he walks in and he says, whose old Ford that is out there? And my brother Billy says, it's mine. So Uncle Billy said, you know that's a classic. My brother said, what's a classic? Uncle Billy said, a classic is something they don't make no more. A classic is something that's valuable. A classic is something that gets more valuable with time. He said, the classic is special. And my brother stuck his chest out, right? So when Billy left and went back to Cleveland, I asked Willie, can I use the car? He said, no. I said, well, he took my driving privileges away. I said, I can't use the car. He said, no, that's a classic. I saw him saving money to get the transmission fixed. I saw him washing the car for the first time. I saw him cleaning it because somebody finally told him that he had a classic. Here's my question. Has anybody ever told you that you're a classic? Has anybody ever told you that you're a Rembrandt, you're a Raphael, you're a Van Gogh? When they made you, they didn't make no more. Don't you know you're engineered for achievement and designed for success? If you're not performing at the genius level, then you're operating in an unnatural state. I mean, genius level performance is what I'm talking about. You're operating under state. Listen to this poem. Quick. The park bench was deserted as I sat down to read beneath the long, straggly branches of the old willow tree. Disillusioned by life with much reason to frown, you see, the world was intent on dragging me down. And if that weren't enough to ruin my day, a young boy approached me all tired from play. He stood right before me with his head tilted down and said with great excitement, Walt, look what I found. Well, in his hand was a flower. It was a pitiful sight. The petals were all worn, not enough rain or too little light. Wanting this dead boy to take this flower and go off and play, I faked a small smile and shifted away. But instead of this kid leaving, he sat by my side and said, "It sure smells good and it's pretty too. Here, that's why I picked it just for you." Well, I knew I must take it or this kid might never leave, so I reached for the flower and said, "Thanks, just what I need." But instead of him putting it in my hand, he held it in midair without reason or plan. It was then that I noticed for the very first time that this weed-toting boy could not see. He was blind. With the quiver in my voice and the tears that shone like the sun, I managed to say thank you for picking the very best one. "You're welcome," he replied, and he went on his way, unaware of the impact he'd had on my day. So I sat there and wondered how a blind boy could see this self-pitying man under an old willow tree. How did he know of my self-indulged plight? Perhaps from his heart, he was blessed with true sight. Alas, now I could see that the problem was not with the world. The problem was with me. So I held the broken flower up to my nose, and I breathed in the fragrance of a beautiful rose. And I smiled as I saw this young man, another weed in hand, about to change the life of another unsuspecting old man. Let me give y'all one more point. Everything Walt does is about team. Write this right. The problem is not with the world. The problem is with me. How y'all feeling? I got this picture on my office everywhere. Got the bumblebee. Somebody said, "Why don't you get a real one?" No, I like the caricature. I like this one better than the real one. Right? I like this one much better than the real one. Okay. Now, I want to do something here quickly. Rhonda, can somebody help me? I want you to pass these out.
Couple people help.
Okay. I'm going to keep going. Just pass those out. Y'all got those? All right, look at the evolution of thought. That side.
She wants to.
Y'all got evolution of thought? Okay, let's look at this real quick. It's really quite basic, right? I always ask kids, I've mentored 55 boys over the years. I always ask kids, what's on your mind? What you thinking about? Don't you know that thinking starts everything? What's on your mind, right? I could never do an action without first being preceded with the thought. Am I right or wrong? So the question is, if I start wrong, I'm going to finish wrong. Y'all know what one of the number one tourist attraction in the world is? Y'all know what the leaning tower of Pisa is?
Yeah.
It's leaning, right? It's 23 degrees off vertical. But it didn't start that way. What happened was it was built on the wrong foundation. If your life starts on the wrong foundation, am I done, Walt? Let me get out. I mean, if your life starts on the wrong foundation, I'm just being clear about it. It's going to end up wrong. You got to start with a thought, right? And then your thoughts determines your what?
Actions.
Your actions determines your what?
Habits.
Habits to what?
Character.
And your character determines your what?
Destination.
It all starts with the what?
Thought.
With the thought. All right, turn it over. I want y'all to repeat after me with the same violence that I speak with, right? Let me get my glasses so I can see. This is called the Teen Affirmation Pledge, right? I'm blessed.
I'm blessed.
I'm engineered for success and designed for achievement.
I'm engineered for success and designed for achievement.
I'm blessed.
I'm blessed.
I come from greatness.
I come from greatness.
Therefore, I'm expected to do great things.
Therefore, I'm expected to do great things.
Yes, I'm blessed.
Yes, I'm blessed.
I was born a genius,
I was born a genius.
and it's my responsibility to perform at the genius level.
It is my responsibility to perform at genius level.
I will always, always respect my brothers and sisters.
I will always, always respect my brothers and sisters.
I refuse to engage in negative gossip and name calling.
I refuse to engage in negative gossip and name calling.
I will not violate the first rule of war,
I will not violate the first rule of war.
which is don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
I will keep myself in a position to win.
I will keep myself in a position to win.
I will not poison my body with sexual diseases, drugs, or alcohol.
I will not poison my body with sexual diseases, drugs, or alcohol.
I will not violate the 11th commandment,
I will not violate the 11th commandment,
which is, thou shalt not be stupid. God expects me to do my best.
God expects me to do my best.
And if I do my best,
I do my best.
God will take care of the rest.
God will take care of the rest.
Thank y'all.
Wow.